Pat Mayo Hour.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour, UFC 198 from Brazil. DraftKings preview, some betting along with it too. Cody Saftik from the Fight Network in studio with me to break this all down. Of course, I know not so much about the MMAs. That's why every time I mispronounce a name, especially on a Brazil card, because I'm going to think everyone is Italian, although they're not, you're going to hear, and then you're going to have to correct me, and we'll get that figured out. But you're here to break this down. I'm here to lend my expertise when it comes to roster construction and DFS strategy. Let's get right to the top. We have good lord, Fabricio Werdum.
Yeah.
Against Stipe. I remember that one. Miocic.
Yeah, got it. Nailed it. And you even put the chich at the end, which is actually a Croatian pronunciation. So
yeah,
good.
Well, you're Croatian. This is how I know this.
Exactly.
I feel like Stipe has been on enough cards now.
Yeah.
We've been doing the show for 2 years. Eventually, some of this stuff gets ingrained in my mind.
Sometimes.
The other times, not so much.
Yeah.
So we have Werdum coming in at a minus 150 favorite, 10-3 on DraftKings. Is he a must-have?
I'm not gonna say he's a must-have because, quite frankly, can he get the finish? Yes, but will he get the finish early? I don't see it happening. I think more likely he's gonna have to drag Stipe into deep waters. Stipe's a tough guy. He's gonna be around. He can take a great shot. He can give a great shot. He's a gamer, and as you see with the lines, I mean, it's a fairly close line considering one guy's the undisputed champion of the world, and he's still only a minus 150 over his number one contender. So not a blowout line by no stretch of the imagination. This does get a little tricky, Pat, because I will say right off the top here, I do think Fabricio Werdum wins. I think it's going to go 5 rounds. If he does finish, it's late in the 5th, but it's going to go 5 rounds.
And if that's the case, that's bad for DraftKings.
And I did play Stipe on a cash game team because of the value of $9,100. I think that's crazy. This is very much a close fight. Stipe could win this fight. Do I personally think he wins? Not so much. But for $9,100, he's got 5 rounds to operate with, and he can most definitely get the win here. Fabricio Werdum is a guy that has been knocked down in the past. Stipe has proven to have very heavy hands, and so it's going to be a close fight for sure.
I will say that after an extended losing streak, like 3 shows or 4 shows.
It 3?
I think it was
4?
It was 3 or 4. I don't remember.
That's extreme.
The first one of the losing streak, I was in L.A., I was at a Kings game setting my UFC roster. Be like, I got to deposit some more money so I can make we're riding hot here. I need to get some money in. Not so much the case.
And not so much.
And that was the beginning of upsets happening all the time. And last week it shifted back, and you nailed it. I cleaned up in GPPs and cash games last week, so we need to keep that going.
You just got to be able to find the dogs with a chance. So last week it was Gunnar Nelson and Reza Madadi, and those are the people that are well priced. Value-wise, they're well priced, and then they go out there and they get the win. Both guys end up getting finishes. So it's
and one of them was great. Gunnar got a quick finish too, didn't he?
Second round finish,
which is huge.
Exactly.
First and second. First is ideally, but there's not a ton of predictable first round finishes. Second round finish is fine. Overeem ended up coming through too, because that's what it came down to for me. I was checking my team. I wasn't watching the fights. I was just checking my DraftKings scoring. I was like, if Overeem gets a win here, I'm going to win a lot of cash.
See, for me, I was looking at my team. Willie Gates hurt me. But I was looking
Willie
at the
Gates
team,
hurt me across all lineups.
Of course, same here. So I'm looking at it, I was like, man, I need Struve to win, preferably in the first round. And then he knocks him out in 16 seconds. I was like, it was too fast. I needed significant strikes up until about the 4-minute mark.
It doesn't matter. That's fine, though, because he still scored over 100 points. That's all we wanted.
For sure.
So that was key. And actually, we talked about it last week, too. I remember when you gave me your GPP lineup, you had all that extra money left over that you could have taken whoever, I think it was Reza or whatever his name was.
Yeah, Reza Madadi.
Yeah, I took him off and went up to the women's fight, whoever the heavy favorite was there.
Yeah, Jermaine Durand.
Yeah, I put her on instead of him.
Good call.
And so
Great call.
So I played multiple lineups. Both those lineups cashed highly because
good times.
Yeah, so it was excellent. So we're going to try to get back on this week. Where's the quick finish here that you see?
A quick finish, definitely. There's going to be, I think, a couple of them, but Thiago Santos, that's somebody I really like. Coming in at 10,900. This guy has literally made massive improvements every time we see him in the UFC. Started out, and he just seemed to be a mediocre Brazilian fighter. Maybe someone that would never realize his potential if he had potential. He made a switch to, and we talk about this all the time, American Top Team. So he leaves Brazil, he comes to South Florida, he starts training there, and the improvements, Pat, have been leaps and bounds. His takedown defense is awesome. And now that guys can't really take him down, they got to stand with him, which has proven to be a difficult task. I mean, he's got wicked good Muay Thai, he's very strong, he's very physical. He's taking on Nate Marquardt, a guy that's fought at 170 pounds in his career. This not huge.
This name has come up a lot, though, Nate Marquardt. He always seems to be like this mid-carder.
He used to be the man. He fought Anderson Silva for the title, and he was the man.
How long ago was that?
2007.
So it's been a while. It's been a decade.
It's been a while. And then he started doing TRT because he was, getting a little older, started doing TRT. And I remember, I'll never forget this. His wife made a quote where she's like, he's such a better person now that he's on TRT. He's not miserable. He's not angry. He's got energy. He's a great guy. Well, that's what's banned now. So now what's she thinking about? I don't know. But back to topic here is that Nate Marquardt is a guy that has all the skills in the world. His technical ability is all there. But as you get a little bit older, your body starts to get a little shop worn. And in his case, he's been knocked out. Yes, he's been knocked out by very heavy punchers like a Hector Lombard or a Jake Ellenberger. Both those guys beat him at 170 pounds. So he's coming up to 185, and he's not getting a small 185er. He's getting the real deal. Yes, he won his last fight against CB Dollaway, but he almost got knocked out in the first round. He had to come back in the second round and pull it off. So this is a guy that I think his ability to take a punch is kind of leaving him just ever so slightly. And can he still beat guys in the middleweight division? Yes. Can he beat a monster guy like Thiago Santos? Probably not. Thiago Santos, you may not know him, but he put an absolute thrashing on Elias Theodorou, who was previously undefeated, and whipped him his last time out. I like this guy a lot.
I do have a picture of myself with Elias where he is hoisting me up above his head and I'm wearing his two belts.
It's funny because a lot of people have a very, maybe not the belt thing, but he's got this thing where he just puts people on his shoulders. And I saw him one time at like a party, and he had two people on his shoulders.
I like Elias. I did off the record with him one day too.
He's a good dude.
Nice guy.
Very nice guy.
I think that picture was taken like right there.
Could be.
It was
friend of the Fight Network.
Friend of the Fight Network party. I was like, hey, what's going on? I
Yeah. Whoa, he's got two belts.
Who's a strikingly tall and gigantic individual?
Strikingly good looking too.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why.
His post-UFC career is going to be filled with like being on The Bachelor and doing all that stuff.
So he was actually on Amazing Race Canada.
There you go.
And then the very first challenge was they went to TSN and they had to read off a prompter, and it turns out he's dyslexic. And
Really?
so eliminated on the very first episode.
Oh, that's no good.
No.
I feel like his reality TV career, just being on TV, he'll be a host to do something.
Yeah, I'm sure.
John Lineker?
Yep.
Versus Rob Font.
Yes.
Any strong feelings either way?
I like Rob Font. Rob Font's a guy that coming in as the underdog, I believe Lineker's a minus 190 favorite on him. He's going to have good value, and he's the kind of guy that...
$9,700 too.
Knocking out John Lineker is going to be quite the task.
Well, let me ask you this. The odds minus 190 and Font is plus 150 on DraftKings. They are the exact same price. Now, which line is more reflective of this fight?
To be perfectly honest with you, if you're looking for a GPP, if you want the finish, John Lineker, because he is hands of stone. When he hits guys, they typically go down. I mean, his career is just full of highlight reel knockouts. Rob Font, on the other hand, he's won both of his fights in the UFC by knockout. It's just, can he go in there and beat a guy like Lineker by knockout? I'm not so sure. I do think Rob Font pastes him up. I think Rob Font gets the win. I'm definitely going to play some Rob Font on both teams. And, yes, on GPP, we want the finish. Rob Font can still get the finish. The biggest thing he's taken in here is John Lineker's a guy that's fought at 125 pounds. He's moving up to 135 pounds. Not through his own choice, but mostly because he cannot cut the weight to 125. This guy is 5'3" and has like a 67-inch reach. Rob Font's 5'8", has a 71-inch reach. He's much bigger, he's much longer, and he's equally as good of a striker. Lineker wants to have a firefight. He wants to draw you into a brawl, and Rob Font's just too smart for that. And in fact, Rob Font's corner, Mark Delagrade, would not allow that to happen. He's going to cut angles. He's going to dance around this guy. He's going to paste him up. He could get the finish. I'm not certain he gets the finish, but I do like Rob Font, and I will be playing him.
But at 9,700, we talk about quick finishes are what you need to be targeting, but that can be somewhat unpredictable, especially when you drop down below the $10,000 level on DraftKings. But if you can get a decision finish from a $9,700 player, that's fine value, as long as they get the win.
Obviously, GPP, you don't want to see wins, but yes.
But again, you're saying there is the possibility for a knockout there, but if you do like him win by decision, at $9,700 price tag, that pays off that price tag, and you're not losing ground to the field. You're treading water.
Absolutely.
Which is fine, as long as you can find the other ones on the card somewhere else. So who's a massive underdog value player here that you can see being a good DraftKings play?
Well, there's a couple of them, but the last thing on the Font thing is that people love Lineker, and because he's known for his finishes, he's going to be heavily played, I think. I think most people have him, especially they're both 9,700. If you ask 9 out of 10 people, I think 9 of them would tell you, yeah, give me Lineker. So just him losing and Font winning, I think will do me leaps and bounds.
Well, that's, again, almost factored into the DraftKings pricing a little bit because the betting lines tend to favor more of what the public is thinking.
Yes.
So if that's the case and you say you just pull 10 random people and 9 would say that Lineker would win, it's probably why he's minus 190.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the betting line has to factor in what the public is going to do to get the right side of the money on it.
And what they're willing to pay for it, which is minus 190.
And they will. So with Font on DraftKings, where they're the same price, that's probably a more true line is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. Now, dogs on the other dogs that have a chance, because once again, he's a dog. I also like Mauricio Shogun Hua, and I like Antonio Little Nogueira.
Little Nog!
Little Nog!
Little Nog!
I know.
He's just little.
He's littler than his big bro.
Who's Big Nog?
That's his big brother.
Oh, okay.
His also name is Antonio Nogueira.
Okay.
There's Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira and Antonio Rogerio Nogueira.
Well,
tell me about
Little Nog.
All right, Little Nog, who's the twin brother of Big Nog. Pride legend. This guy's been around for a really long time. Known for his jiu-jitsu. Although, known for his jiu-jitsu, should be known for his technical boxing prowess. I mean, former bronze medalist at the Pan Am Games in boxing. And I just think he's got super underrated
Pan Am Games. Like,
what, that comes around like every, 3 years?
Yeah, but it's not, it's not like the Olympics.
It's not the Olympics. He had better things to do. Well, not better things to do. He probably didn't qualify for the Olympics. But
even like when you because the Pan Am Games were just here. Like they were like right next door, actually, outside of this building.
Yeah.
Even like the Americans that come aren't like the best Americans. They're like level 2. Maybe that's not uniform across every sport.
Yeah.
But like the basketball team that they sent were like a collection of like hobos, and they still beat like Team Canada and Team Brazil and those guys.
But I mean, if you look at the American wrestling team, they sent Jordan Burroughs,
they sent
the best Olympic gold medalist.
So they do send the best guys for those events.
It was a warm-up for the World Championship, which was like 2 weeks after. So that's just kind of the way to play it out. And listen, were they the best boxers that year competing in the Pan Ams? Probably not. But one thing we see is that when MMA fighters tried to box boxers in boxing, it never happens. This guy's able to go at least compete with boxers. He does have a good technical ability. The problem is when he gets matched up with guys in the UFC, I mean, either they're equally as good as strikers as him, or they're better strikers than him. Or a guy like Anthony Johnson, he's just too big, too powerful.
Too big for Little Nog.
Exactly, he's just a little nog. If he was Big Nog, you'd take Anthony Johnson. But I mean, yeah, exactly. He's just a tad bit undersized for a guy like that, especially when you factor in that punching power. Now he's got a matchup that I think personally against Pat Cummins. I love Pat Cummins. I really do. But the guy can't really take a punch. Not that he gets hit and gets knocked out like Bigfoot Silva, as we were talking about. It's just he gets hit and he turns away. So
he opens himself up to getting punched more.
Yeah, you can just tell that this is a guy that he came to the UFC, was working like a Starbucks before, and then they called him on like a week's notice and were like, do you want to fight Daniel Cormier, the current, interim, or I guess he's the full UFC light heavyweight champ. And he did. The guy's got skill. He's a good wrestler. He was a walk-on at Penn State and ended up being a 2-time All-American. He's got the skills. He'll take Nogueira down. I'm very confident that he will take Nogueira down. But as I mentioned, what's Nogueira known for? His jiu-jitsu. He's always been a good jiu-jitsu player, and he's got a high-level black belt. So he'll be able to defend anything Cummins is trying to do, and I think he'll be able to sweep and get back up, maybe submit. The biggest thing, Pat, is once he does get back up, he's going to land those hands. Pat Cummins is a guy that when he loses in the UFC, he gets knocked out. OSP, stuffed a couple takedowns, knocked him out. Glover Teixeira, stuffed a couple takedowns, knocked him out. Daniel Cormier, never took him down, just knocked him out. The guy's a tad bit chinny in the sense that he clearly has not developed an ability to take a punch, whereas some of these other guys, they've been fighting for 5, 10, 15 years.
Is this a common problem? Because when we first started doing this, you always said that probably the best skill that you can have in MMA is wrestling.
Yeah.
Do you still believe that?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, the game's certainly evolving.
Do you find that some of the wrestlers do have some of the weaker chins, though, because they don't have the experience with getting hit in the face?
It's not even necessarily that. It's just that out of every single aspect of MMA that's currently getting better and currently growing, takedown defense seems to be the number one thing. So Ronda Rousey can go, and she can use judo, not wrestling, but just get the fight to the ground, and you're going to smash these girls. A guy like Johnny Hendricks, we always talk about him, he's always in the loop beating guys up. This guy is one of the best wrestlers to come from a collegiate wrestling background into the UFC. Credentials like none other. His last fight against Stephen Thompson just spends his camp, stuffed the takedown. And now that you're stuffing the takedown, he can't throw hands. Why? Because he's wrestled his whole life, and you've thrown hands and kicks your whole life. And so stuffing those takedowns with Ronda, she gets stuffed against Holly Holm. What's her plan B? No plan B, because she can't throw hands. Pat Cummins will get some takedowns.
Well, didn't Ronda try to go toe-to-toe with Holly Holm, like fight her, standing up?
I believe it's because she realized, I can't get this girl down. Okay. And I think Johnny Hendricks, the same thing. He only shot a handful of takedowns, maybe even just one that he really committed to. But once it got stuffed, he was just like, uh-oh, bang, 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 bang. And now your body starts to shut down because you've just been hit so many times. It's not a good look for
I can attest to that.
Yeah. Pat Cummins is a guy that, like I said, I've never seen other than Daniel Cormier, I've never seen a Pat Cummins fight where he didn't at least have some moments, right? He will try to get the takedown. But when Nogueira gets back up, he's going to pace them together with some good combos, and I think he puts him away. This is a fight I'm fairly confident is going to be a finish. Lil Nogueira, first or second round, great value on him, good actual betting line on him. Yeah, so I like him a lot.
It's almost back to the same thing we just talked about with Font, where the betting line is minus 210 for Pat Cummins, and for Little Nog, it's plus 160, but the DraftKings pricing is almost the same. Cummins is 9,800 against 9,600 on the other side, so we're building up value in this $9,000 range that we can afford some. I mean, we just saved $400 there. We just saved $300 on the last fighter on Font. Now, you can afford some of those more expensive guys too, especially if there's another value on the board. You like Shogun.
I like Shogun as well. And once again, Brazilian legend taking on an American upstart, and the American upstart's heavily favored. This fight is...
And minus 220 to plus 180.
Yeah.
You're big on dogs. Should I be parlaying like Shogun, Little Nog, and Font together on a 3-fight parlay?
Yeah, it's going to pay extremely well.
Yeah.
And when we get to my cash game and my GPP, I don't like my cash game team because it's not, oh, these guys are all locked. It's like, I love my GPP team.
So what you're saying...
I got these dogs. And I think if they come through, and I think they will, if they all come through the way I believe them to, it's going to pay gigantic.
And this is kind of an interesting point, too, where if you're not really feeling the cash game this week and you think that there's going to be a lot of upsets on this card, then maybe this is just a week to stay away from cash games, only play GPPs.
Very possible. Yeah, that's why I have you here with me. Because honestly, when I was constructing my cash game
if you don't
team,
like your roster when you construct it, like it happens to me in football, it happens to me in golf, it happens to me in baseball. Like sometimes I'll try to make a, like whatever slate is on that week, like, I just don't like my team top to bottom for cash. I don't feel like it's safe. If you don't feel like it's safe in a 50-50, just screw it that week. Save the money or just invest it into GPPs.
Yeah, fair enough.
Make some more lineups full of, like when we're going to get to your GPP lineup in a second, but like maybe because you have all three of those guys, Font, Nog, and Shogun on it, take one of them out and mix it in with someone else.
Essentially, that's what I do with my cash game team. But when you play cash game, you got three underdogs who are 2-1 underdogs. But that doesn't really sound like cash game.
No,
right?
It doesn't at all.
Because you need some upsets to happen here. Cash game, it's like, yeah, these guys are locked. Francisco Trinaldo, he's a lock. That's a guy that you would want on a cash game team. I played him on both, but he's good.
Yeah, obviously. So back to Shogun.
Shogun. All right. So once again, we got Brazilian legend taking on this American upstart. The thing with Corey Anderson, it's very, very, very similar to Pat Cummins. The guy's a very high-level wrestler. I mean, he was a collegiate standout. He went to the Olympic Training Center, tried to make the Olympic team, didn't quite work out, transitions over to MMA. When you watch him fight, I mean, his takedowns are fantastic, and he can keep on guys. Problem is, can't really take a punch all that well. He is 100% working on it, but his only loss in his professional career happened, not that long ago against John Vellante. Deep in the third round, he's gassed, he's cooked, he gets knocked out. His last fight against Tom Lawler, not a power puncher, by the way. Tom Lawler moving up a weight class, this close to knocking him out in the first round. I mean, this guy is on skates in that first round. Shogun, in my opinion, he's faded. He's not the Shogun he used to be. He's still better than Tom Lawler and Jean Vellante. I think he lands those shots. I think Corey Anderson might get out of the first round, give him some trouble with that wrestling. But this is a 15-minute MMA fight. The fight starts standing every single round. You are going to get hit. And I think Shogun's got the goods to put this guy away.
Any other fights that we need to discuss here before we get to the lineups?
Well, we'll talk about Francisco Trinaldo. I mean, Massaranduba. This guy has been on a hell of a roll. He's 5-0 and he's won his last 5 fights. Against Yancy Medeiros, Yancy Medeiros is 1-1 in his last 2. He got knocked out 2 fights ago, 3 minutes into the first round, which bodes well for us because we want Trinaldo to do the same thing. And in his last fight, he fought a Canadian by the name of John McDessie. I have not actually met anybody that thought Yancy Medeiros won that fight, but he did squeak out a split decision.
Yancy!
On the fancy Yancy.
That's what they call him.
So I think this is a showcase fight. You got Trinaldo, who's breaking into the top 10 right now. He's fighting the best fights of his career. He's in Brazil.
So this is a launching pad for him to kind of vault up and be a serious contender in the weight class.
I was talking to Paul about it. His last 3 opponents are all infinitely better than Yancy Medeiros. I mean, Ross Pearson, Chad Laprise, Norman Park. He's already beaten guys that are much better. And he knocked out Chad Laprise. I think he does the same thing to Yancy Medeiros. I'm going to say probably in the first round. But once again, if it's not the first round, I think he's going to get him at some point inside the distance. So I do like Massaranduba. He's just fought the better level of competition. He seems to be the better fighter at this point.
Let's move to your cash game team for UFC 198. And who do we got on here? We have someone, Chris Cyborg or Santos. You're not sure? Or is that the same guy? You have 2 different prices written down.
Chris Cyborg's a girl, actually. But
okay.
People have made that joke many times in the past.
Well, you wrote down Chris.
Yeah.
I assumed it was a guy.
Cristiane, yeah, I know. Actually, she was married to she used to be known as Chris Cyborg. And then my boy, Cyborg Santos, divorced her, and she had to take back her maiden name, Justino.
Okay.
Or her actual last name. So she's Cyborg Justino. $11,600, Pat. That's actually the reason why. Meant to talk to you about it. That's why I put 2. She's $11,600.
She's a minus 1,900 favorite.
Right. Everybody likes her. Everybody knows her. She's never fought in the UFC. Everyone is just salivating. Oh my God, I can't wait to see this girl in the UFC.
Is Leslie Smith any good?
Yeah, she's a punching bag. I'm a big fan of hers. But she's going to get wrecked. Biggest thing is, I think she makes it out of the first round.
Really?
And for $11,600, I need this to be a first round finisher. I can't really justify that.
Maybe. But with the way that you've constructed your team here, I mean, I guess you'd have to give up Santos, and you don't want to do that.
Here's what ended up happening. If you take Santos, who's $10,900, so he's $700 essentially cheaper. Can he knock out Nate Marquardt just as quick as she can knock out Leslie Smith? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm saving that $700. If I take Cyborg, I don't take Santos, I go Cyborg, Trinaldo, Rob Font, Lil Nog, and Stipe, I have no money left on the table. And I know
That's fine.
And I know that Cyborg's going to be heavily played. So what I was thinking...
Is she, though? Because she's so expensive. So. And now, obviously, she's by far the biggest favorite on this card. She's by far the highest priced player. Do you think that people are going to be like, well, I don't like my team if I put her on it? I don't like what the rest of, like, where I have to go down at the bottom end, that they're just going to be like, maybe I'll go Santos, save the money there, and build up a better team from the bottom up? Or do you just think that people are so locked in on her winning that they are going to go with her?
What percentage would you say of DraftKings players are actually knowledgeable? Because the people that are knowledgeable, and there certainly are people that are knowledgeable, that construct proper teams, that do the research, they'll do that. They'll take her off and they'll build a better lineup from the ground up. The other players, they won't care. They'll just be like, I got a lock here.
I think it depends on... It's hard to... it's all a guesstimation, really, on the percentage of people that play MMA yet know nothing about it. Like, I play every week. I don't really know a ton about it. And
Most of the people I know that play the MMA, they don't know. They're gambling addicts. So they're just like, I'm just going to put a couple parlays together, or I'm just going to make a DraftKings team. These are the same guys that play NASCAR DraftKings.
Yeah, I play.
They don't actually know anything about NASCAR.
I don't know anything about NASCAR DraftKings, but I know the people that know about NASCAR DraftKings. I just tail them. It's like with you with MMA. I just tail you and figure a bit of the strategy out myself.
Fair enough. So I think a lot of people, they click and who's the most expensive person? Oh, Cyborg. Cyborg. I gotta have her. But you're right. They might get turned off by the fact that she's so expensive. That being said, you can actually still fit her on a team. I mean, I just did it. This is not a bad team.
Yeah.
But it has Stipe on it, who I'm not huge on. It's just for the value. Come on.
Because Shogun's $100 too expensive to squeeze on, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah, that sucks.
There's actually somebody else.
Is there anyone else like down like the $8,000 range? Like some just absolute dud you could see having a chance?
You know what? I'm going to say no. The reason I say that is when you look at the players that are in that $8,000 range, it's like, okay, I got Vitor Belfort's $8,800. If you're going to make a GPP and you're going to have a punt team, might as well put this guy on. Because he knocks out pretty well everybody that he wins against. If he beats you, if he wins the fight, more chances than not he's going to.
You just don't think that he's going to knock out Ronaldo Souza?
Jacare. Nah, straight up, I think Jacare is just the better fighter. Vitor Belfort is a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best Brazilian fighters of all time. Massive star over there. 39. And he's no longer on steroids. They have taken away his ability to do steroids. And people always say, like, you see him at the weigh-ins, and he's not nearly as shredded as he used to be. Does that matter? Won his last fight in knockout. Unfortunately, the guy he was fighting was 45 years old. So now he's getting Jacare, who's 36. He's no spring chicken, but he's a spring crocodile. And Jacare, which I believe is Portuguese for alligator. I think he gets the job done. I mean, I truthfully do. His ground game is far superior. His striking's pretty good. His wrestling's actually not bad. And this is not the Vitor that we've grown to know and love. This is, a post-Vitor that we've grown to know and love.
Let's switch over to your GPP team now. It's we've basically mentioned all the guys. It has Santos, Trinaldo, Font, Nog, Shogun on it, and you feel good about that team. I feel good about that parlay now.
Yeah,
you've talked these guys up. That probably pays like plus 1,800 or something.
I broke down the card. There was 13 fights on the card. Anderson Silva.
Silva's gone. Yeah, I saw that.
He's gone.
Even I saw that.
Yeah, I know.
It was on Twitter. I was like, hey.
I woke up this morning and I was like, somebody made a joke to me where they were like, oh yeah. Chael Sonnen one time after his fight, he grabs the mic. He's like, Anderson Silva, you absolutely suck. And then I just woke up this morning. Somebody had messaged me. They were like, Anderson Silva, your gallbladder absolutely sucks. I was like, what happened? Yeah, pulled out of the fight. So, anyways, we've gone from a 13-fight card to a 12-fight card. Out of that 12 fights, I could see 3 or 4 dogs coming through. Those are 3 dogs I think not only have a chance, the line is good on them. They're not even money fights. I'm getting plus 190 on some of these guys. Yeah, in.
And the DraftKings pricing allows you at 97, 96, and 92 to afford Trinaldo and Santos both on the team, which I think is nice. Or if you want to drop down to Vitor and upgrade to Cyborg, you could do that too if you're playing multiple lineups.
Absolutely. You know what? That's not a bad idea at all. To be perfectly honest with you, you make a great point. If I was going to play that cash game lineup, I guess Stipe is more of a cash game guy. But to move Stipe off, keep Chris Cyborg, and put Vitor at the bottom, if Vitor gets that win, that's probably a money parlay for sure. Or a money DraftKings team, sorry.
Yeah, it is, because you're taking the ownership percentages and using them against everyone else who has the other side of that fight.
Which is exactly it.
And that happened to us last week, because we took those 3 dogs that ended up coming, or the 2 dogs that ended up coming through, and everyone was on the other side of it. They were like 35, 40% owned on the other side. So our like 5% ownership on the winner was like double points because everyone else lost, and that was huge.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even like that Toutmaster tournament that me and Paul and I are in, yeah, Gunnar Nelson, he was the biggest dog to come through on the card, and a lot of people were just voiding him altogether. So all you just need is one of those guys to come through, and then right away, your team is infinitely more unique than most other people who decide to avoid it.
Few things I did want to talk about before I get you out of here. Some MMA-related news.
Nice.
People keep telling me this, like, Mayweather-McGregor fight.
Never going to happen.
That's what I thought, too. Like, that can't... Well, you said on an Indian reserve it might get sanctioned. Floyd's not...
Might get sanctioned. It gets sanctioned.
Okay, so in any like, place where there is legislation on this stuff and you need regulation, it's never going to happen.
Never going to happen. The other thing, too, is Mayweather doesn't fight on native reserves. He fights in gigantic arenas in Las Vegas. And the Nevada Commission, I can't see them
Where is the incentive for Mayweather to do this?
Well, he said $100 million is my asking rate or more. And show me the money, and we're good. But he makes his money up front. And the thing people don't get is that Mayweather gets all the concessions, all the merchandise that's sold,
and with his deal with Showtime, he was getting like 15% of the pay-per-view revenue too.
Exactly. So Mayweather's out of his deal, right? So he's 49-0. Everybody obviously wants to see him. They say it's a curse, right? Guys don't get past that 49.
Yeah, but what he can do now is he can leverage that 50-0 fight into getting like 50% of pay-per-view revenue for himself.
Exactly. He can leverage it for anything.
He's not going to fight McGregor to go 50-0. That's not happening.
He would like to, though, and I'll tell you why. Because he's getting a little bit older, and you're looking at this big mega fight, and you're like, okay, if I'm going to come back and I'm going to box somebody, who are my options to box right now? And quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of options. Amir Khan was an option, but he just got blasted away by Canelo Alvarez. He's already beat Canelo Alvarez. People want to see that rematch. There's no way Floyd in his right mind wants to do that rematch. So you're in a situation where it's like, okay, well, who are some of the other guys that I can maybe have entertaining fights with? And people always say, it's not the Mayweather opponent, it's Mayweather himself. Well, his last couple of pay-per-views have tanked. The Manny Pacquiao one did extremely well. But when he's fighting, Andre Berto, when he's taking on Roberto Guerrero, when he's taking on Marcos McDonough the first time, nobody cares at all about these
Well, the
fights.
whole thing becomes, like, because when Mayweather fights, you're not selling the pay-per-view to you. You're selling the pay-per-view to me. Someone who's not watching boxing and would have a hard time paying up or even caring about it. But Mayweather, Pacquiao, those are 2 names I know. And
exactly.
and that happened to me, happened to a lot of my friends. We all got together and watched the fight. It was a terrible fight.
Terrible fight.
But, I won money on Mayweather. Mayweather, by the end of it, was paying plus 145 to win by decision. It was insane.
I'm not going to lie. Other than, I wasn't betting back when he fought Ricky Hatton, but other than the Victor Ortiz fight, I make good money on every Mayweather fight.
Because people hate him. And
just bet it by decision. That's all you have to do. It's the easiest money you'll ever make. Just bet the guy by decision. That's it. And the time he beat Victor Ortiz, he sucker punched him. Although Victor Ortiz cannot take a punch, so it's probably inevitable anyways.
What's the weight difference between the two?
Well, Floyd has fought as high as, I think, 154. He's fought in very low in his career, but obviously that's when he was younger.
McGregor's what, 155, generally? I know he went up.
He fights at 145, but yes, he would like to fight at 155, and he has fought as high as
So they're the same-ish size?
Same-ish size. The problem is that Floyd Mayweather is basically a billionaire. He's not a billionaire. He's got like $800 million. That's what his net worth is, right? Conor McGregor, his net worth has got to be $50 million. Let's be generous and say his net worth.
I think that's way high.
As I said, let's be generous.
He's probably like $5 million.
I think he got let's say $15 million.
Why?
Right?
Why? Where are we going with? Where are we getting $15 million from?
Because he's made a couple $1 million his last number of fights.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Take away half that in taxes right off the hop.
He's Irish. Does he have to pay American taxes?
If he's fighting, I'm sure he's incorporated in America.
Yeah. Okay. $5 million. One guy's worth $5 million. One guy's worth $800 million, right? So the guy who's worth $5 would have to just, okay, what do you want to do, and I'll do it.
That happened to Pacquiao too, though, because Pacquiao needed the money, and he ended up getting $40 million for it, so he's fine now.
Oh yeah.
But he needed the money for that fight, and he's basically like, "Tell me where to sign. I'm signing."
Yeah.
You're here, Floyd. Have everything.
Well,
Floyd won that fight in the negotiation table before they got into the ring.
Oh, for sure. Manny Pacquiao claims he had a bum shoulder coming into the fight.
He did.
You know why? Because you're not going to leave $40 million on the table, buddy. You're going to show up and you're going to do the do. And still, with one shoulder, made it to decision. So money once again.
But I feel like, weirdly enough, I feel like Mayweather strings these people along to get more of the fight out of it, so people aren't like, "Oh, it finished in 20 minutes. Why did I pay $59 for this?
Yeah, I
feel like that's somewhat.
Nah, I don't think so.
He is a very calculated individual.
Very calculated. He doesn't appear to be the smartest guy, but certainly business-wise, he's brilliant.
He has fantastic business sense.
Yeah.
And McGregor seems to be kind of playing himself as that type of guy from the MMA angle, but I don't know if he has the business acumen to do it.
You know what? He's proven to be quite a good businessman.
I agree, but like Mayweather's like top of the top when it comes to selling his fights, maximizing every dollar from those fights. I think McGregor wants to do the same thing, but in terms of the UFC, they just don't allow their fighters to do that.
Well, the other thing too is I believe Floyd Mayweather won a bronze medal at the Olympics in 1996, and then he was talking trash back then. And then between 96 and 2006, 10 years, he erupts and he's a big star. And then between 2006 and 2016, that's where the money started to roll in for this guy. He used to be known as Pretty Boy Floyd. Then he changed his name to Money Mayweather because the money started rolling in. He saw, how can I do this? Essentially, McGregor's just tried to do this in 12 months' time, in a year time, and that's just not enough. He hasn't really proven the same way that a guy like Mayweather is. So I'm sure the comment sections, people will be trashing me because people are McGregor fans, obviously.
I'm a McGregor fan. I like McGregor.
And if McGregor fights Floyd in an MMA match, he kills him. If Floyd boxes McGregor with MMA gloves on, McGregor might still have the ability to dart in and hit him with something. But in a boxing match, no chance. None. Zero.
Yeah, you're taking one of the greatest boxers of all time who's never lost.
Is the greatest boxer of all time.
And putting him up against a guy who has 0 professional boxing matches.
Yeah, and I was laughing against someone the other day. I was like, if you look at Mayweather's resume, people are like, oh, he handpicks guys. He's fought all world champions. All of them. They're all world champions. You got to go all the way back to like Sharmba Mitchell for the last time you can at least say, oh, he took a handpicked guy. These guys are the creme de la creme, and he just makes them look like they're not worthy of being in the ring with him. What do you think he's going to do to Conor McGregor, who just got whipped by Nate Diaz, who was high as hell the whole time?
Last thing, this UFC sale.
Oof.
Darren Rovell, professional instigator Darren Rovell, has reported that the UFC is getting like audits done, evaluation of the company, and that there may be a Chinese buyer coming in to whether buy the UFC, whether it's become a partner, who knows. What are the guys' names? Not Dana White, the brothers,
the Fertitta brothers.
The Fertitta brothers,
yeah, Frank and Lorenzo.
Yeah, well, the talk is they want to bring the Oakland Raiders to Vegas, and they would prefer to own an NFL franchise. They always wanted to own an NFL franchise, and this could be a way to maybe not sell off the entire company, but as I kind of equated to, if you bet on Bet365 on MMA, it doesn't work like this, but if you bet on football or basketball or golf or whatever, it gives you an option to cash out early.
Oh, I know.
Now you can cash out a percentage of your bet for whatever the odds that they're giving you in the live moment, instead of waiting to the end and getting, and say, let's say if you bet something at 80-1, they'll give you 25-1 odds to cash out 30% of your bet. It seems like that is the route that they might be going here, cash out a little bit. And who knows where MMA is going to be in 10 years. If you can get $1 billion right now, why wouldn't you? Especially if you still retain the majority of equity in the company. Plus, you can use that money to buy an NFL franchise, or at least a partnership in an NFL franchise, build a stadium, get everything in place, and achieve your dream. I assume that's what these people want.
Well, you know what? Dana White has come out and he's refuted the claim.
Well, he's going to do that.
I have to assume it's legit because not only is just this Chinese banking firm, but there's multiple people that are in play to get the team, including mostly sports organizations that go out and buy chunks of sporting teams. So clearly that there's an interest here. The reason why I would have to say I do think they're going to sell is this is simply how business works. You build something up. The second it gets evaluated for a lot more than it is, you have to sell. You have to sell. Even if you love it, you have to sell. The rumor is right now that they're looking at between $3.5 to $4 billion. It is not worth anywhere near that. It is with $1 billion tops. Maybe 1.5, and that's stretching it. If someone was to come in here and say, I'll give you twice what this thing's worth, 1.5 billion more than it's worth, nobody in their right mind is going to say no. Quite frankly, that's just the way it works. I hate to say it, and I used this example the other day to Robin. Robin's got a little dog. He loves that little dog. Would you ever sell this dog, Robin? No. What if somebody offered you $1 million? Yeah, because everyone's got a price at the end of the day. It sounds schemy, but at the end of the day, you can't walk away from something that just makes so much sense. And I think if you're the Fertittas,
and you're not such good businessmen that you can start a product, get it to turn into something that's $1 billion enterprise, and not realize when people are coming at you with even more money that you're like, oh, this is a good deal, I'm going to take this deal.
Absolutely. UFC, they said that the numbers were dropping off. Last year, they had the best numbers on record. Why? Ronda Rousey comes out, Conor McGregor comes out. Business is pumping.
Both those people are gone.
Yeah, they're all fired up. Now all of a sudden, maybe someone comes in and says, oh yeah, this thing's worth $3.4 billion. And you think, Yeah, Ronda's maybe never going to fight again. And if she does, she's not going to be around for a long time.
Who knows
and
about
McGregor,
Conor?
we don't know either. So if we lose both those stars and we go back to the dark ages, we don't want this product on our hand. Especially if it goes from being worth $3.5-4 billion to dropping back to 1.5. You're going to be the guy hitting yourself in the head being like, why didn't I sell and make that $2 billion?
When is the Fox deal up?
It was 7 years, and I think they're 3 years in, so it's going to be a little while still.
Do you think that Fox
wants out.
I was going to say, I
it's
can't
gonna move to
imagine them renewing that.
No, not at all. They feel cheated because, I mean, what they were, I'm not going to say what they were promised, but what they believed the UFC would do viewership-wise is not even a fraction of what they're actually achieving.
Now, a lot of that, I think, falls on Fox because they put it on Fox Sports 1, which no one watches. Most people don't even get it on their TV, so it's hard for people to tune in to watch it if they can't find it on the dial.
You know what? It falls a lot on Fox as well. Whenever the UFC has a groundbreaking announcement, right, they call up Fox, and they're like, hey, Dana wants to come on, and he's going to announce this McGregor fight. And they'll be like, yeah, no, not interested. So what does he do?
No, we got to show episodes of The Grinder.
No, he goes to ESPN and he does all of his announcements on SportsCenter for ESPN, which is the competition. Why would somebody who's tied to Fox be doing all these interviews on ESPN? Why? Because ESPN's actually interested in it. So Fox is either going to try to buy themselves out of this deal, or at the conclusion of the deal, you'll see a shift to ESPN. That's just my thought. Listen, I'm not in the meetings. I'm not in the discussion, but from someone who's heavily involved in the sport and pays attention, I believe that's the direction that's headed.
I saw a Dana quote that came out and said that it's not they're selling it to an Asian branch, but they're going to branch out and do more fights in Asia, like partner up over there. Now that could be his way of talking around it and doing all that. He's a hard guy to believe.
You know why I do kind of believe that? Is because now, let's say you're not Dano and you're not the Lorenzos. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of these Chinese investment bankers. These guys are not dummies. They must know this thing's not worth $3 billion. They have a team that's evaluating it, and I'm sure that team's coming back to them and being like, this is the profit margin in North America. These Asians are probably convinced, well, North America is a fraction of the size of Asia, and that's what they're doing business-wise. So if we can take that and we can multiply it 6 times and go after the Asian demographic, then it will be worth our while. So I'm sure that they're seeing value. Yeah, and if they do that, there will be a lot more Asian cards.
It's a lot like when the Dodgers sold. People were blown away that the Dodgers sold for it's funny, the UFC is going to sell for $4 billion, the Dodgers sold for $4 billion.
Crazy.
But the Dodgers weren't worth that at the time. They knew that there was a TV deal coming down that they would own all of the shares of. That's worth like $2 billion right away. So I guess, if you factor in the potential market that you could now saturate with this product that's already established as the world class and everything like that,
the name itself,
that you can just make the product, make your money back off of that. I'm guessing that's what the move is.
I would have to assume so as well. I mean,
and you're taking, and before anyone gets too crazy about it, you're two people speculating on gigantic business deals that are relatively poor people.
yeah, exactly.
So we don't know.
Look at this golf shit. I wear it all the time.
Anyway, Cody Saftik, check him out on the Bookie Beatdown on the Fight Network every single week with Paul Shea. There Paul!
He just walked on by.
Come wave. We're saying Bookie Beatdown. There he is.
Paul from Bookie Beatdown.
You can check out Paul on the Fantasy Challenge Show on the Fantasy Sports Network, which he does with me, as well as we break down the fantasy scoring for MTV's The Challenge. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter, and remember to subscribe to the Pat Mayo Hour on YouTube and iTunes, and just places where multimedia lives. That's where I live. I'm Pat Mayo, and I'll see you next time.
For the latest expert fantasy sports strategy and tips on YouTube, click subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and call your local cable TV provider to order Fantasy Sports Network, or watch us on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Xbox.